In the ancient days of Arda, long before the lands of Middle-earth knew the tread of the hobbits or the rise of the great kingdoms of men, there existed powers far older and wiser. Among these powers were the Maiar, lesser Ainur who had been woven into the fabric of creation by Eru Ilúvatar himself. One such Maiar, known in his true form as Olórin, would come to be known as Gandalf, a name both revered and feared alike by those who witnessed his deeds in the later ages. To understand Gandalf, one must first look beyond the veil of the mortal world to the deep histories of the Undying Lands, the divine realms of Valinor, and the subtle yet profound shaping of destiny by the Valar. Before Gandalf walked Middle-earth in the form of a man, he existed as Olórin, a Maiar of great wisdom and compassion. He dwelled in the Undying Lands of Aman, home of the Valar, the higher order of the Ainur who shaped the world under the will of Ilúvatar. Olórin was counted among the Maiar who served Manwë, the king of the Valar, and Vada, the queen of the stars. But it was Nienna, the lady of sorrow, to whom Olórin was closest. Nienna was the embodiment of grief and pity, and it was through her teaching that Olórin learned much of the nature of suffering, of endurance, and of hope. He wandered the gardens and halls of Valinor in a guise that was humble and unassuming. Though many of his kin took on forms of great beauty and power, Olórin often walked in the shape of an elderly figure, cloaked in grey, going unnoticed by all but the most discerning. Yet it was said that even in this form, he could inspire hope and courage in the hearts of the children of Ilúvatar, the elves and men who dwelled in Aman. He was loved by the Eldar, for he brought them solace in dark times, teaching them to resist despair and to cherish the small joys of life, even in the face of inevitable suffering. However, despite his wisdom, Olórin was not a leader of great armies, nor did he command vast powers over the elements as others of his kind did. Instead, he worked through subtle means, fostering strength of spirit in those around him. And it was this deep understanding of the hearts of elves and men, this quiet strength, that would later lead to his true calling. In the Second Age of Middle-earth, the Dark Lord Sauron, who had once been a Maiar of Aule, began his rise to power. Disguised in fair form, he deceived the elves of Eregion and crafted the One Ring to dominate the free peoples of Middle-earth. Though Sauron was temporarily defeated in the War of the Last Alliance, his spirit endured, and it was clear that he would one day return to spread his shadow once more. The Valar, seeing the growing threat of Sauron in the Third Age, determined that they could no longer leave Middle-earth to face this evil alone. It was then that Manwë, the Lord of the West, called forth a council of the Valar. They resolved to send emissaries to Middle-earth, beings of great power and wisdom, but clothed in mortal forms, so as to guide and aid the people of Middle-earth in their struggle against the darkness. These emissaries would be known as the Istari, or wizards, and 5 were chosen for this task. Olórin, though initially hesitant, was among them. He did not believe he had the strength to face Sauron directly, for he had feared the power of the enemy and the sway of the shadow. Yet it was precisely for this humility, and his deep understanding of the hearts of others, that Manwë had selected him. Thus Olórin was sent to Middle-earth in the guise of Gandalf, the Grey Wanderer. Along with him came Curanir, later known as Saruman the White, Iwendil, known as Radagast the Brown, and 2 other wizards whose fates would lead them to the far east. Clothed in the flesh of men, the Istari were bound by the limits of their mortal forms. Their power was restrained, and their purpose was not to dominate or lead by force, but to inspire and guide, using their wisdom and strength to rally the free peoples against Sauron's growing influence. Upon arriving in Middle-earth, Gandalf began his long wandering through its lands, observing and learning about the peoples and cultures he would one day help to protect. Unlike Saruman, who established a place of power at Orthanc and sought mastery over the others, Gandalf travelled far and wide, gaining the trust of the peoples of Middle-earth through friendship and counsel. He came first to the Elves, and it was in Lindon, the westernmost realm of Middle-earth, that Círdan the shipwright first greeted him. Círdan, who had foreseen the importance of Gandalf's role in the coming struggle, gave him a great gift, Narya, the Ring of Fire, one of the 3 elven rings of power. This ring, said to possess the ability to inspire others to courage and resist tyranny, was entrusted to Gandalf, who alone among the Istari did not seek power for its own sake. With Narya, Gandalf would help kindle the hearts of those who fought against Sauron's dominion. In the centuries that followed, Gandalf forged strong relationships with many of the free peoples. He became a friend and counsellor to the kings of Gondor and Arnor, guiding them in their wars against the shadows of the East. He sought out the remnants of Númenor's greatness, ensuring that the strength and wisdom of the Dúnedain would endure. His role, however, was always indirect. Gandalf worked behind the scenes, nudging events with a careful hand and a gentle voice, never seeking glory for himself. By the time of the Third Age, Gandalf was well aware of the growing menace in Dol Guldur, a dark fortress in southern Mirkwood. He suspected that Sauron, though diminished, had returned in secret, slowly regaining his strength and gathering dark forces to his cause. This was a time of great concern for the White Council, a group of the Wise led by Saruman and including Elrond, Galadriel and Gandalf himself. The council met to discuss the growing threat, but Saruman, now driven by his desire for power and the One Ring, argued against direct action. He convinced the others that Sauron was not yet a great threat, allowing the Dark Lords more time to rebuild. Gandalf, however, did not share Saruman's confidence. In secret he ventured into Dol Guldur in 2063 of the Third Age, seeking to confirm his suspicions. There he discovered that the dark power lurking in the ruins was indeed Sauron, though greatly weakened. His return to the White Council marked the beginning of the Watchful Peace, a period where Sauron withdrew from Dol Guldur, biding his time and gathering his strength in secret. Though peace reigned for a time, Gandalf never ceased his vigilance. He continued to wander the lands, from the forests of Lothlorien to the halls of Erebor, and even into the Shire, a quiet land of hobbits where he found an unexpected fondness for its people. His travels took him to the far-flung places, gathering knowledge, forging alliances, and ever keeping watch for signs of Sauron's return. The next major chapter in Gandalf's story unfolded in 2941 of the Third Age, when he encountered Thorin Oakenshield, the heir to the throne of Erebor. Thorin, a proud and noble dwarf, sought to reclaim his homeland from the dragon Smaug, who had long since taken the lonely mountain as his lair. Gandalf, ever watchful of the larger threat posed by Sauron, saw in this quest an opportunity not only to aid Thorin, but also to remove a dangerous ally that Sauron might one day enlist. At first, Thorin intended to march on Erebor with a band of dwarfs, but Gandalf knew that the group needed something more, something unexpected. It was then that Gandalf remembered Bilbo Baggins, a quiet and unassuming hobbit from the Shire. Though Bilbo had no experience with adventure or battle, Gandalf sensed that there was more to him than met the eye, and against Thorin's initial skepticism, Gandalf insisted that Bilbo join the company as their burglar, thus setting in motion the events that would lead to the quest of Erebor the defeat of Smaug, and the discovery of the One Ring. This fateful decision was but one of many in Gandalf's long and storied life. A life spent in service to Middle-earth, always working in the background, guiding the peoples of the world with quiet wisdom. Through his travels, his counsel and his actions, Gandalf ensured that when the time came, the free peoples would stand against the darkness and, through the most unlikely of champions, find the hope they needed to endure against Sauron's wrath.